Hey, thanks for being here. Let's do some pod crashing. Episode number 206 is with Lance Bass from NSYNC. His podcast is The Last Soviet. What's going on, dude? Man, it's been raining like cats and dogs out there in California. Has it improved at all?
Oh yeah, it's nice and rainy today, but we've had it for like 2 months now. We've never had this much rain.
But you know what's great about that, Lance, is that those lakes are filling up. The beauty of that area can really start coming back in a very fresh way.
It is. It's the most gorgeous. Everything is green. We had snow-capped mountains for a long time. It actually snowed here for the first time in 20 years. So yeah, it's been. I love it. It's beautiful. We need as much rain as we can get.
Can you imagine being up in space right now, watching this taking place?
Yeah, it would be a very gorgeous view, that's for sure.
Wow. I got to congratulate you on the Last Soviet podcast. And the reason why is because we should be knowing the history of all astronauts and cosmonauts.
We can teach our kids history lessons, but we always, especially when it comes to space, it's all about the Apollo days. And we do learn about Yuri Gagarin, the first man in space, but it's a blip on our radar. But to know what all these other countries have done with their explorers and how we've all come together as a planet, we share space together. We share the space station with, Russia and Belgium and, China. It's been a beautiful cooperation for many, many years. And that'll never stop. As political as space can get from our countries, yeah. Cosmonauts and astronauts have never looked at it that way. They have always been hand in hand and really just trying to work together to advance humanity.
You share the story of Sergei from 1991, where the country down on Earth was going kind of crazy, but yet this man really held it together up there as a leader of that International Space Station.
I mean, I could not imagine making the decision he made. Yeah. He went up as a hero cosmonaut, manned the Mir Space Station, not knowing that he was going to be stuck there for 313 days because he had the decision to make. They said, look, you can come down, Mir can crash, and it's the last of the Soviet Union. He had no idea what he was coming down to. It was a broken country. He was out of a job. But he decided, you know what, I'm going to keep this space station alive as long as I can, the last piece of the Soviet Union. And he did for 313 days.
You get real dramatic when the lights go out on that space station. I mean, it's like, I can't imagine being in darkness in space.
Oh, gosh. I mean, there is a thing called space madness, space sickness. It is a real thing. And you have to understand, Mir is much smaller than the space station we have today. So, you're just living in a tin can for almost a year. You're gonna go nuts.
You talk about that space sickness, but he had a connection in Australia, which I thought was very fascinating. And you bring that to the storyline.
That's my favorite part of the story is, and it just shows you how much, how political that this can be. But, Sergei was up in space and his country wouldn't tell him anything. Yeah. No news. To them, the Russia was fine. Communism was fine. Like it was all just, hunky dory. But it was this woman, Maggie, in a little small town in Australia that connected on the ham radio one day, and they became friends. And she was his only lifeline to what was happening on Earth. So his country would tell him one thing, but then he would know the truth on the other side. And it was kind of like this little fine line he had to walk in between.
With you doing the research on Sergei, and I'm sure there's going to be more people you're going to be diving into because you've now got the power of the podcast and you can bring these stories forward. Do you think of this as being training grounds for Violet or Alexander so that maybe one day they'll fly into space and know the history?
Yeah, I do. I really do think in their lifetime, it'll be so much easier for them to be able to experience a space trip. I personally, it would be fun to go up and like a roller coaster, float around and come back down. But, my mission has always been to live on the ISS, do my experiments, and really help the planet. But when my kids are much older, I hope it is just like going to Disney World and be like, all right, jump on, you're going to space. You'll be back in 10 minutes. I think that's just fascinating because when you do, and you hear it from every person that's been to space, when you look down on Earth, you have that perspective, it changes you. Yeah. It really does. You realize how small we are and how we should all just be one together protecting this place. But we get so divided and we forget to look up. So I think if you're up there looking down, it really kind of changes the way you view it at the whole world.
If you would have passed that test, did you expect to write music in space? Because I would have loved to have heard that. I mean, you could have actually been the real Ziggy Stardust.
Yes, I was definitely planning on writing some stuff in space. I'd already started writing a song during my training, but I definitely needed to fly to space to finish it because I had lots of ideas. And, there's definitely been performances in space. Chris Hadfield, of course, our very famous Canadian astronaut, amazing guitar player, and one of the first people that ever taught me how to play some songs on the guitar while I was in Russia. So yeah, I mean, people, it's an odd thing, but astronauts and cosmonauts love two things: making their own beer, which is weird, and they love music. so it was fun.
As a child, how did you play space? I tipped over the doghouse and I climbed in there like a module, and I would walk in slow motion pretending I was on the moon.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I had one of those little rocking chairs where my sister and I would like pull us back and we would like shake ourselves like we were, walking into space. And it was the same chair I would play Top Gun on Nintendo, and I'd feel like I was a fighter pilot.
Wow. Well, congratulations on The Last Soviet. I look forward to talking to you many more times in the future about how you're going to really dive deeper into this. And so hint, hint, wink, wink. I really want to hear more because you are a brilliant storyteller and sharer. And this is what a podcast people need to dive into.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I plan on bringing lots of true stories to light, which I'm honored to be able to do that.
All right, bud. Will you be brilliant today, okay?
All right. Thank you so much.